On the morning of April 3rd, 2025, emergency responders raced through the quiet streets of Cold Springs, Nevada, their sirens piercing the dawn silence. They were rushing to 1739 1 Crystal Canyon Boulevard, where a desperate 911 call reported an unresponsive child. What they found inside would haunt them forever. 5-year-old Isabella Loving, lifeless on a thin mattress, her small body bearing the unmistakable evidence of months of systematic torture. But this wasn't just another tragic child death. This was the preventable death of a little girl who loved the color pink, who should have been preparing for kindergarten, and who had been catastrophically failed by every system meant to protect her. Every victim has a story. Every case holds unanswered questions. This is Secrets in the Shadows, true crime stories that demand to be heard. Here, we uncover hidden tragedies, systemic failures, and chilling mysteries. Every case is told with respect, emotion, and truth, so victims are never forgotten. Subscribe to Secrets in the Shadows and join us for a new story every 2 weeks as we shine a light on the cases the world tried to forget. Secrets in the Shadows, because the truth should never stay hidden. Here's what makes Isabella's case so devastating. Child Protective Services had closed its final investigation of the Loving family just 30 days before her death. 30 days that could have saved her life. How does a 5-year-old slip through every crack in a system designed to save children like her? Before we continue, please note that this video was created for educational and documentary purposes. It covers sensitive real-life events that may be upsetting to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Isabella Marie Loving was born in 2019, a bright little soul who found joy in life's simplest pleasures. She loved to color and draw, always reaching for anything pink, her favorite color that would later become a symbol of remembrance for an entire community. But even in her tragically short life, Isabella endured treatment that defied every natural law of parental love. While her siblings slept comfortably on queen-sized beds with soft pillows and warm blankets, Isabella was forced to sleep on a bare crib mattress thrown carelessly on a cold floor. While other 5-year-olds played freely and felt safe in their homes, Isabella lived in constant fear. She had become what child psychologists call a scapegoat child, one child singled out for abuse, while siblings in the same household are inexplicably protected. The differences were deliberate and cruel. Her brother and sister had proper beds, regular meals, toys, and the basic right to childhood. Isabella had hunger, isolation, punishment, and pain. This wasn't neglect born of poverty, mental illness, or ignorance. This was calculated, systematic torture. The Loving family lived in Cold Springs, Nevada, about 20 miles northwest of Reno, in a neighborhood where children should have been safe to play outside, and neighbors should look out for one another's kids. Nicholas Loving, 35 years old, struggled to maintain his remodeling company, Extreme Remodeling LLC, which had developed a troubling reputation for incomplete projects and increasingly desperate financial circumstances. His wife, Andrea, watched silently as red flags accumulated year after year. But Nicholas wasn't new to violence against children, a fact that should have changed everything about how authorities monitored this family. In 2014, 11 years before Isabella's death, he was convicted of felony child abuse for breaking Andrea's son's arm. This wasn't an accident, a moment of poor judgment, or a one-time incident. This was documented legal proof of his willingness to seriously injure children, permanently preserved in court records that any social worker could access with a simple background check. The Loving family had been on Child Protective Services' radar for years. Concerned family members made report after report, documenting troubling signs they witnessed during visits. Isabella's unexplained bruises, her obvious malnourishment, her fearful behavior around Nicholas. Community members reached out to authorities when they suspected something was desperately wrong. Each report was dutifully filed, investigated with standard protocols, and ultimately closed without meaningful intervention. The final CPS case involving the Loving family was officially closed in March 2025, just 30 days before Isabella died. The abuse Isabella endured was both systematic and escalating with each passing week. According to police documents that would later shock seasoned investigators, she was regularly imprisoned in a makeshift 5-by-5-foot wooden cubby, barely large enough for a 40-pound child to lie down. This wasn't a bedroom or even a closet. This was a deliberately constructed torture chamber where Isabella was locked as punishment, sometimes for hours at a time, in complete darkness and isolation. While her siblings enjoyed regular meals throughout the day, Isabella was systematically starved. Court documents revealed text messages between Nicholas and Andrea discussing giving Isabella only a single piece of bread for entire days as punishment. The physical abuse was extensive and ongoing. When first responders arrived that April morning, they documented more than 10 visible injuries on Isabella's face alone. For weeks before her death, Isabella had been critically ill with obvious respiratory distress. She was coughing up blood and mucus, running high fevers, and showing clear signs of pneumonia that would alarm any caring parent. Nicholas and Andrea watched their daughter's condition deteriorate day by day, knowing she desperately needed medical attention, but unable to risk doctors seeing the extensive injuries covering her small body. Instead of seeking life-saving treatment, they made a calculated decision to wait. Wait for the most visible bruises to fade. Wait for what they perceived as the right moment. Wait 12 days, because someone had told them that's how long to wait before seeking medical care for a sick child. Isabella didn't have 12 days left to live. She didn't even have 12 hours. On the night of April 2nd into the early morning of April 3rd, Isabella was once again isolated in her room, forced to sleep on her inadequate mattress while her siblings rested safely in comfortable beds downstairs. She had been critically ill for over a week, but that night, her small body finally gave up its fight for survival. According to later police interviews that would reveal the shocking depths of their callousness, Nicholas and Andrea discovered Isabella unresponsive at approximately 2 a.m. She had stopped breathing. Her tiny body was already growing cold to the touch. But Nicholas and Andrea Loving made a choice that revealed their true priorities. Instead of calling for emergency help, they waited. For nearly 5 crucial hours, they allowed precious time to slip away while their daughter lay dead in the room above them. Nicholas later claimed he spent those hours consoling his panicking wife. If you believe Isabella's story deserves justice, please like this video so more people hear it. And if you're new here, subscribe to Secrets in the Shadows for more cases where systemic failures are exposed. At 6:55 a.m. on April 3rd, almost 5 hours after discovering Isabella, they finally called emergency services, reporting an unresponsive child who wasn't breathing. When first responders arrived at the Crystal Canyon Boulevard home, their extensive training hadn't prepared them for what they found. Isabella's small body showed extensive evidence of systematic torture, injuries that went far beyond anything that could be explained by accidents or normal childhood mishaps. The seasoned paramedics and deputies on scene immediately recognized they weren't dealing with a tragic illness or sudden death, but with a homicide. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office investigation began immediately, with both Nicholas and Andrea brought to the detention facility for separate questioning. What followed were hours of interviews that would expose the calculated nature of Isabella's torture and death. Nicholas attempted to explain Isabella's extensive injuries through elaborate stories of accidents. She had fallen from his pickup truck, he claimed, not once, but twice in recent weeks. In his first version of events, she supposedly hit her face directly on the asphalt pavement. When detectives pressed him for more specific details about these alleged accidents, he completely contradicted his earlier statement, claiming Isabella had actually caught herself with her hands and never hit her face at all. Every question revealed new contradictions in his story. Every attempt to explain away Isabella's injuries created fresh holes in his increasingly desperate narrative. The evidence of systematic abuse was overwhelming and undeniable. Meanwhile, Andrea's interview with Detective Joe Aceves revealed one of the most disturbing admissions in this entire case. When confronted with Isabella's condition and the overwhelming evidence of long-term suffering, Andrea made a statement that exposed the devastating truth. I should go to jail for not helping Isabella. Nick should go to jail for killing her. In those 22 devastating words, Andrea confessed that she had not only witnessed the ongoing torture of her daughter, but had understood its life-threatening severity and consciously chosen to do nothing to stop it. Perhaps most damning of all, Andrea's Google search history told its own devastating story of a mother who knew her daughter was dying, but chose to research symptoms rather than seek medical help. Her searches included signs my child is dying, how long can you go without food, kidneys failing, and my 5-year-old is peeing blood. Nicholas Loving was arrested on April 3, 2025, and initially charged with child abuse causing substantial bodily harm. The presiding judge set his bond at an unprecedented $10 million, a clear indication of both the severity of the charges and the extreme flight risk he posed to the community. While the case proceeded through the legal system, the Washoe County Medical Examiner conducted a thorough investigation to determine the exact cause of Isabella's death. The results were heartbreaking, but not surprising to anyone who had seen the evidence. Isabella died from bacterial pneumonia, a completely treatable respiratory infection that kills fewer than 1% of children who receive proper medical care. However, months of systematic starvation, dehydration, and physical trauma had so severely compromised her immune system that her small body could no longer fight off an illness that antibiotics could have cured within days. In July 2025, 3 months after Isabella's death, Andrea Loving was finally arrested and charged with child abuse, causing substantial bodily harm. Her bond was set at $2 million, and she was placed under strict house arrest conditions. By August 2025, Nicholas received additional charges: open murder in the first degree. The father, who should have been Isabella's greatest protector, now faces life in prison for systematically torturing his own daughter to death over a period of months. District Attorney Chris Hicks announced the upgraded charges. Justice for Izzy remains our highest priority, but Nicholas and Andrea Loving weren't the only ones who catastrophically failed Isabella. Child Protective Services, the government agency specifically designed and funded to protect children exactly like her, repeatedly missed opportunities that could have saved her life. Ashley Viney, a family friend who became Isabella's most vocal advocate after her death, revealed the heartbreaking scope of systemic failure that preceded the homicide. According to Viney's testimony, multiple reports had been filed with CPS over several years by concerned family members who witnessed warning signs and desperately sought intervention. Each report followed the same tragic and predictable pattern. A social worker would arrive for a scheduled visit, conduct a surface-level inspection, find the house reasonably clean and organized, observe that food was available in the refrigerator, Note that Isabella's siblings appeared healthy and well cared for, and closed the case due to insufficient evidence of abuse. But they consistently failed to notice or investigate the subtle signs that revealed Isabella's vastly different treatment within the same household. They failed to recognize that child abuse doesn't always affect every child in a family equally, and that abusers often target one specific child while appearing to care normally for siblings. The final Child Protective Services case involving the Loving family was officially closed in March 2025, just 30 days before Isabella's death was ruled a homicide. 30 days. If that case had remained open for just one additional month, if someone had made one more unannounced visit, Isabella Loving might be alive today. Isabella's death ignited a firestorm of community outrage and demands for systemic change that continue to reverberate today. Within days of her death, vigils were organized throughout Cold Springs and across northern Nevada, drawing hundreds of participants who wore pink, Isabella's beloved favorite color. Pink ribbons appeared on trees, fences, and mailboxes throughout the community, creating a visible memorial that served as both a tribute to Isabella's memory and a stark reminder of the community's collective failure to protect her. Organized protests took place outside the Child Protective Services building in downtown Reno, with demonstrators holding signs reading, "Justice for Isabella," "The system failed," and "How many more?" The case sparked serious legislative discussions about what supporters have termed Isabella's Law, comprehensive proposed reforms to how child protection services handle cases involving families with documented histories of abuse. Isabella Loving should be alive today. She should be 6 years old, bubbling with excitement about first grade, making new friends, learning to read her favorite books, and discovering that the world can be beautiful, safe, and full of possibility when the adults in her life fulfill their most basic responsibilities. Isabella's memory demands that we do better. Her story must serve as a permanent wake-up call for every parent, teacher, neighbor, social worker, and public servant who has the power to recognize warning signs and protect vulnerable children before it's too late. I want to hear from you. Do you think CPS failed Isabella the same way they failed Gabriel Fernandez and others? What changes do you think could prevent tragedies like this? If Isabella's story has moved you, please like this video and subscribe to Secrets in the Shadows for more cases that demand justice and expose systemic failures. Most importantly, if you ever suspect a child is being abused, don't assume someone else will act. Make the call. Be the voice that the child doesn't have. Every child matters. Every report matters. Every voice matters. Isabella's life mattered, and her death must never, ever be forgotten.